Yo, what's going on, guys? Today I'm going to be going over the MLB slate, the early slate for DraftKings on Saturday, June the 8th. There is a 9-game early slate for Saturday. I'm going to cover that in this video. And there is a 6-game main slate, night slate, whatever. We'll have a video for that as well. That will be uploaded after this one. We'll start off, though, with the early slate. Look at these 9 games. Talk about the pitching options, where I want to go at pitcher, the guys I feel like I'm going to be playing, and then I'm going to have in my player pool. We'll look at some stacks that I like, and then we'll talk about some BVP plays for this early slate. Just before we do get started, guys, I would appreciate it if you would drop a like on the video. And if you are new to the channel, make sure you click that subscribe button down below, so that way you won't miss out on any of my new videos. So on the early slate, 9 games, we got 2 pitchers over 10K. Lucas G Alito at 11-2 against the Royals, and Zach Greinke at 10-1 against the Blue Jays. I think both of these guys have pretty good matchups. G Alito has a 4.3 implied run total going against him. This is a Royals team that does have some strikeouts in its lineup, especially when you get towards the bottom. G Alito has been great as of late. He's been just one of the best pitchers in the league, to be honest. Last start against Cleveland, he went 7 1/3, allowed 5 hits, no runs, 9 strikeouts. Just look at the game log the last 3 games, 43, 33, and 35 DraftKings points. G Alito has kind of figured it out. He's really pitching well lately. But this $11,200 price tag is a really hefty price to pay on this slate, especially because there are some bats I want to try and get to. And I think we can find similar upside for cheaper. So for that reason, I'm not going to include G Alito in the core. Zach Greinke, I like his matchup against the Blue Jays, another spot where there's plenty of strikeouts. But Greinke at 10-1 is so closely priced to Kyle Gibson. I really like Kyle Gibson at 9,700. And if I'm not going all the way to the top to G Alito, then I'm probably just going to go down to Gibson. I really like Gibson here against the Tigers. I think he has just as much upside as G Alito and Greinke, and he is a bit of a discount. Gibson has shown 30-point upside this year. He's got 35 DraftKings points against the Blue Jays, 31 DraftKings points against the White Sox. Now he gets to face a Tigers team that strikes out a ton versus right-handed pitching. It's a very bad Tigers lineup in general. Great spot for Kyle Gibson. We don't have any totals on this game right now, but I imagine when we get the Tigers total, it's probably going to be pretty low. It's just a really good spot for Kyle Gibson, and he's 9,700. He's 1,500 less than G Alito. He's 400 less than Greinke. He feels like one of the better pitching options going on this early slate, especially when you factor in like points per dollar. I think Gibson makes a ton of sense. Next favorite guy besides Gibson, behind him or under him, whatever. I do like Julio Teheran at 9K against the Marlins. I don't want to play Teheran over Gibson. Like if I have the choice, I'm going to play Gibson for just 700 more. I think Gibson gives you like that 35 or that 25, 30-point upside that you kind of need at that price tag. Teheran hasn't shown a ton of upside this year. I think he did have a really good matchup last start, and he still only got 19 DK points against the Tigers. He just hasn't shown a lot of K upside this year. 9 Ks against the Padres was his best start this year. In terms of strikeouts, he does have a few games with 20 DraftKings points, but rarely do you get that 25, 30-point game out of Teheran, and that's kind of what you need if you're going to be paying a 9K price tag. So for that reason, I think I would just rather play Kyle Gibson, who gives me that upside. And then looking for cheap pitchers that we can pair with Gibson, I think there's a few guys that are in consideration for me. Fredmirrell Valdez from the Astros is the first guy that I want to talk about. I really like him here at 7,400. He's pitching him at home against the Orioles. Great matchup for Valdez. 3.5 implied run total for the Orioles, which is pretty low. Valdez, I believe, is fully stretched out as well. His last appearance, he pitched against Seattle. He went 4 innings, 65 pitches, and that was a relief appearance. I feel like here he can probably go about 5 innings, 80, 85 pitches. And at 7,400, especially looking at the value pitchers on this slate, there's not a ton that you really feel great about. I think Valdez gives you 20-point upside at his $7,400 price tag. And if you just look at some of the other guys around him, like Adam Plutko against the Yankees, I don't want to go there. Chris Bassett in Texas feels like a really risky play, even though Texas does strike out. And Bassett has shown some upside this year. Just in Texas, I don't know if I really want to target Bassett 7,500. Maybe CC Sabathia at 7,700, but I honestly feel like you get more upside out of Valdez, and he's 300 cheaper. I think my next favorite cheap play would probably be like Brad Keller at 6,500. At home against the White Sox, I really like him here as a value pitcher. I played some Homer Bailey on Friday's slate because he was so cheap facing a strikeout-heavy White Sox team. Now we get a cheap Brad Keller facing a strikeout-heavy White Sox team. So as a value pitcher, he makes some sense at 6,500. But I expect a lot of my SP2 ownership to go to Valdez and probably Brad Keller. Those are the two cheap guys that I really like on this slate. But now talking about some bats, where we can look for hitters. The Astros are a team that I want to start off with here. 5.6 implied run total versus Andrew Cashner. Cashner is just not that good of a pitcher. He's been a little bit better as of late, but he's still not a guy that I'm afraid to pick on, especially with some of these Astros hitters. Alex Bregman, obviously one of the top plays today if you can find a way to fit him in. I do like him a ton at 5,600. He is one of my favorite hitters on the slate if you can pay up for him. Very expensive, but great matchup against Cashner. Cashner really struggled this year to right. He's been giving up a lot of home runs to right-handed hitters. Bregman, obviously a great hitter, a ton of power versus both sides of the plate. Has a lot of power versus lefties and a lot of power versus righties. So I really like him at 5,600. If you're stacking the Astros, it's hard to not include Alex Bregman in your stacks. And then a value play I like from the Astros is Yuli Gurriel. He's dirt cheap, only 3,600. I think he makes a lot of sense as a cheap option if you're getting exposure to the Astros. Besides Bregman, there's actually a pretty decent amount of cheap plays in this Astros lineup. Like Derek Fisher leading off is only 4,100. Michael Brantley is only 4,600. That feels way too cheap. Gurriel is very cheap, obviously. Josh Reddick's only 3,900. Trinos at 4,500 for a catcher is kind of expensive, but like Gurriel, Reddick, Brantley, Fisher, you can get a lot of value out of this Astros lineup. You can definitely stack the 1 through 5 and still fit in a guy like Kyle Gibson. So I really like going to Yuli Gurriel. He is better versus righties. He's actually shown some power versus right-handed hitters or right-handed pitchers throughout his career. And like I said, Cashner really struggles to righties. So really like Yuli Gurriel as a value from the Astros, 3,600. And then my final play that I want to talk about is Chris Davis. He's 4,200 in a matchup with this Palumbo guy from Texas. Not really that good of a pitcher. Not a guy that I'm afraid to pick on. I think this is definitely a game we want to get exposure to when it comes to bats. 93-degree temperatures in Texas tomorrow. 39% humidity. Great hitting weather. This Texas ballpark plays great for hitters especially when it's hot during the summer. And it's really starting to heat up in Texas. I think both of these pitchers we can attack. Paul Blackburn and Joe Palumbo. Some of these righties from the Oakland side I really like. Simeon, Chapman, Davis, Piscotty, I think all are great plays today. And they're relatively cheap, 4,200, 4,300 for all those guys. And then on the other side, we definitely want to target against Paul Blackburn. He's really not that good of a pitcher. And in Texas, I imagine he's going to really struggle here. Once we get totals on this game, I'm pretty sure we're going to see some pretty high totals on both sides. But from the Texas side, Sensu Chu, Danny Santana, Andrus Mazzara, these guys make for great plays. Asdrubal Cabrera, Rougned Odor, Ronald Guzman, all those guys are dirt cheap. So you can get some value at the bottom of the lineup as well. I think honestly doing like a game stack here and playing both sides makes a ton of sense. Really like Chris Davis at 4,200. Just a guy that has a ton of power, even versus lefties. He's shown more power versus righties, but even versus lefties, Chris Davis has a ton of power. He can hit it out, especially in this Texas ballpark, in this heat. So I love him if you're stacking Texas, or if you just want to play him as a one-off. I think Chris Davis makes a lot of sense today. But I think that is it for my 5 plays today, guys. Let's go ahead and talk about some stacks now. Then we'll look at BVP before we end the video. So my favorite stack is the Astros. I really like them here versus Andrew Cashner. I expect I'm going to have a lot of 4-man, 5-man Astro stacks. And then for secondary stacks to go along with the Astros, these Oakland hitters, specifically the righties, Simeon, Chapman, Davis, Piscotty, I really like. And then on the other side, some righties and lefties versus Paul Blackburn I think make a ton of sense. Chu, Santana, Andrus Mazzara, I think all these guys are in play. Even like the 6 through 8, that's what I really like from the Rangers because of how cheap they are. Cabrera at 3,900, Odor at 3,300, Guzman at 3,700. Odor and Guzman both have some power and they're both dirt cheap. And Paul Blackburn, not a guy that's going to get strikeouts. He'll pitch to contact, pitches in the zone. They could definitely take him deep here. So this Oakland, Texas game I like a lot for bats. Then looking at some other teams, maybe some of the other high totals. Depending on who starts for Detroit, I think Minnesota is probably going to be a stack that we want to go to. We don't have a starter yet for Detroit, but once we get it released and we see some totals on this game, I think this Minnesota team is definitely going to be a team we want to target. Don't mind picking on Jordan Lyles with some of these Brewers hitters, but I don't think the Brewers are going to be a priority for me. I do like the Yankees quite a bit versus Adam Plutko, especially now that they're getting healthy. They have Didi Gregorius back. This is definitely a good Yankees lineup that we want to stack up. They're pretty expensive, but pretty sure they're worth the price tags here versus Plutko. But I think that's it for stacked. Let's go ahead and talk about some BVP now before we end the video. So there's actually quite a bit of BVP plays on this early slate. I'm just going to cover the ones that really stand out to me. So starting off, let's see here. Rhys Hoskins 6 for 15 with a home run off Tanner Roark. Louis Garcia 7 for 15 off of Brad Keller. JT Realmuto 11 for 24 off Tanner Roark. Carlos Santana 10 for 19 with a home run off CC Sabathia. Jose Ramirez 6 for 12 with a home run off CC Sabathia. Curtis Granderson 8 for 40 with 3 home runs off Julio Teheran. And then lastly, Yasmani Grandal 6 for 19 off of Jordan Lyles. Also, Jose Ozuna gone 2 for 10, 2 home runs off of Zach Davies. But I think that is it for this early slate, guys. I think that is it for the video. Hopefully you guys did enjoy this video, and hopefully it did help you. Like I said at the beginning, I will have a video out for the main slate, 6-game main slate tonight. That video will go up after this one. But thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed. Make sure you drop a like and subscribe if you have not already. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comment section below. Or like always, you can hit me up on Twitter at the DFS_GOAT if you do have any questions. But good luck today, guys. Really appreciate you checking out the video. Hope you enjoyed, and we will see you in the next one.